A very common use for drag and drop is the ability to sort a list. So if I come over to my list here and I want item number 1 to be under 4, I can do that. Take 4 and put it above 2 and basically sort this list to my heart's content. Now, what's interesting about setting this up is that each one of these elements is not only a drag source, but also a drop target. Now, let's take a look at the markup for a moment. So here I just have an unordered list. Each one of the list items is using a Bootstrap CSS class in order to show the icon, but for the most part, I just have list items here with some text in it. Now, initially, this isn't draggable, but what I'll do is use JavaScript in order to mark those as being draggable. And just for the sake of being complete, here's the CSS that's applied to that unordered list in order to give it the look of what you're seeing here. So I'm setting the list style to none, setting the margin to 0 pixels, and then giving it a nice border and making sure I'm setting the cursor to move so that you get a cursor that looks like this. Now, as far as the script is concerned, basically what happens is that as you begin to drag an item, it's going to find out the index in the list of the draggable item. And as you drop it, it'll take a look at that index and compare it with the new position that it's looking at going to and decide whether or not that element needs to be put before or after the item that you're dropping it on. So once again, let's start down at the bottom of the script so that you can see how I'm handling all the events. So like I said, each one of those items is a drag source and a drop target. So I don't really need to differentiate between the two. So all I'm doing is calling query selector all and looking for each one of the list items within my list. Once I have that node list, I can iterate over each one of those items. And the iterator here will be named item. Now, the first thing I want to do is add the draggable attribute and set that equal to true. So I'm using Jquery here to add a property and set draggable equal to true. Then I handle each one of the events that I need. So each one of the list items will be attached to the drag start function. It'll run the dropped function when it's dropped, and drag enter and drag over will both cancel their default behavior in order to allow drag and drop to work. Okay, now let's look at drag start. Now I have a variable above here for is drag and drop types supported that defaults to true. This is yet another way that you can deal with the deficiency in Internet Explorer of not supporting the drag and drop types. I'll show you how to use that in just a moment. So again, instead of worrying about the ID of a particular element, what I'm most concerned with right now is its index position within the list. So on drag start, the first thing that I want to do is set aside the current index of that item. I can do that easily by using Jquery. So I get reference to the current target, which is the item that I'm dragging, and grab its index and set it aside. Now for Internet Explorer, this cannot be an integer. It needs to be a string. So here I'm just converting index into a string. Now I've got my familiar try-catch block. I can set the data on the data transfer object by passing in the index using the content type of text/plain. For Internet Explorer, it'll drop down and want to use text, but then I can go ahead and set my flag here to say that the types are not supported. That way the logic that I use on the dropped function is a little cleaner. So now when the item is dropped, and remember, you're dropping a draggable item on another draggable item basically. So when dropped happens, of course, I have to call cancel in order to cancel the default behavior. And I'm interested in the old index value because I'll do some evaluation based off of where it used to be and where it's going. So here, if the drag and drop types are supported, then I can extract the old index out of the data transfer by calling getData text/plain. Again, Internet Explorer, I'll just call getData with text. Either way, I will have the old index value. Next, I need to get a Jquery representation of the target element that it's being dropped on. So here I go to e.target and select that using Jquery so that I can go to target index in order to get the new index position of where I'm dropping the item that I'm dragging. I also need a Jquery instance of the item that I'm dropping. So here I'm looking at the drop target, going up to its parent, so this would be the unordered list, then querying the children by calling the EQ function here and passing in the old index. So by running all of this, I'll get a Jquery instance of the item that I was dragging. And this is the one that will be dropped. So next what I want to do is call dropped remove, which removes it from the list from its current position. And then I need to figure out, well, do I put it before or after the item that I'm dropping it on? Well, if the new index is less than the old index, then I'll put it before. Otherwise, I'll put it after. So by simply keeping track of index positions of items within the list, you can pretty simply create a drag and drop sort order on a list within your HTML page.